afternoon, friends. Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live. Today is April the 25th, 2025, and no end in sight in that death valley of Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky once again rejecting President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance's offer to try to negotiate out a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, and that's just not going to happen. And to make matters worse, if you remember last year, RT also talked about that they're wanting to mobilize women on the front lines in the war with Russia, and that is now starting to shape up and take place. Russia just reporting it captured one woman that was sent to the front lines to fight over in Bolgrod, Russia, trying to take that all over again, and Ukraine sending women in to help fight that front. It has become a travesty, I should say, inside of Ukraine. That so many men have died. Even J.D. Vance was criticizing Zelensky for rounding up forcibly conscripts for the battle and just throwing them in there. And according to one Ukrainian source that I have, he said that they actually round them up, take them to the front lines, give them an M16, or excuse me, an AK-47, and throw them out. No grenades, no nothing, no training, and are just dumping them to be cannon fodder on the front lines. This is how horrible this has become. Let's listen here real quick, though, to J.D. Vance and what he said today here just hours ago before we got Donald Trump saying that it's not going to happen.
Proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We've engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy, of on-the-ground work. We've really tried to understand things from the perspective of both the Ukrainians and the Russians. What do Ukrainians care the most about? What do the Russians care the most about? And I think that we've put together a very fair proposal. We're going to see if the Europeans, the Russians, and the Ukrainians are ultimately able to get this thing over the finish line. Again, I feel pretty optimistic about it. I think everybody has been negotiating in good faith, but it's now time, I think, to take, if not the final step, one of the final steps, which is at a broad level, the parties saying, we're going to stop the killing, we're going to freeze the territorial lines at some level close to where they are today, and we're going to actually put in place the kind of long-term diplomatic settlement that hopefully will lead to long-term peace.
As you can see there, even in that report by J.D. Vance, they're going to freeze those lines at where they are today. So the territory that Russia has gained is going to stay intact as long as the Trump administration and what their view is on this. According to The Guardian, Russian-Ukraine war, Kiev says it's ready to negotiate but not surrender after U.S. repeats threat to abandon talks. That's an article coming out with them. And then here we have here, if these aren't tests, then it's a collapse. After Odessa, Zelensky was given an ultimatum. Ukraine is left alone with Russia. Says this time 18-year-old fighters are being thrown to the slaughter, including even girls. And it looks like that the meeting in London will not take place. Kiev rejected Trump's plan to resolve the conflict, after which the Americans refused to go to the to the UK. Ukraine is left alone with Russia. In this part of the article here, we have, meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces have redeployed a huge number of UAV crews to the Bolgrod direction, most of which are strike aircraft. The enemy has increased its use of FPV drones on fiber optics. And then it says here in this actual direct quote here, the enemy does not give up attempts to cross the state border of Russia. Yesterday, 5 fighters of the armed forces of Ukraine surrendered in one of the areas, among whom there was one girl as an attack aircraft. The age of militants of the armed forces of Ukraine who surrendered varies from 18 to 23 years of age there. So yes, Ukraine now stooping so low as to send women into combat positions, something that is just seems to be unheard of, and allowing this to happen. What how much lower can Zelensky stoop than to do what he's doing there? It's almost like an intention to allow his people just to be slaughtered. I really hate seeing that. MKRU also in the front breaks through experts describe scenario of rapid destruction of Ukraine. Says everything is moving towards the fact that the U.S. Let me kind of blow this up for you so you can see it a little bit better here. As Donald Trump previously warned, may refuse to mediate in the negotiation between Russia and Ukraine if they do not receive a positive response to their proposals. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance also recalled the scenario on Wednesday, April 23rd, noting that America had put forward a very clear proposal to both sides. According to him, it is time for them to either say yes or the yes to withdraw from this process. Political scientist Vasily Kashkin believes that the U.S. distances itself and blocking military aid does not bode well for Ukraine. Ukraine, left with nothing, will continue to lose territory even with the support of European countries. The article goes on to talk about that all that military weaponry that even European countries are supplying are either made in America or heavily the parts that are in them are made in America, and therefore they have to have permission from America to send them to Ukraine in the first place. So if they don't get this, Ukraine is really left with nothing. You know, I keep going back as I look at the scenarios that are happening, and I cannot help but remember Eduardo Hudo, the former rabbi turned Christian who was very close to Menachem Schneerson, saying that this was what was going to happen. He quotes directly from a report that they would go in there and they would pit the Russians and Ukrainians against one another, and it would be a war to basically try to do away with the Slavic peoples. That is a tragedy beyond anything you could ever imagine. Turning to a bit of good news here, Chimney Rock, North Carolina officials have confirmed that a mind-blowing 2,000 members of the Pennsylvania Amish community have been quietly rebuilding the town's homes, businesses, and bridges. Let me play a little clip of this right here. The Amish people coming to North Carolina to help rebuild a little community there. Let's listen in.
We work mostly in Chimney Rock, some down in Bat Cave.
These volunteers are members of the Great Needs Trust, an Amish community in Pennsylvania, offering not just their skilled hands and their time, but their compassion as well.
We wanted to help the people that had the disaster. Our heart just felt drawn to come help.
Since the storm, more than 2,000 volunteers have stepped in to help rebuild, and donations have poured in. Kindness from strangers, helping their neighbors.
All of the building material
That's really an amazing act there. A lot of Amish people here in Tennessee as well. And just as we get ready to close here, I want to bring your attention to a nonprofit foundation. This is not a government-funded foundation either. My attorney, or I should say our attorney, mine and Yana's Dale Cantrell, actually has sponsored a lot of this and has contributed quite a sizable amount of money to help this group go. And this specifically is for adults with cognitive delays and physical impairments. They are desperately in need because they have fallen short. And as I said, there is no government tax subsidies for them in helping this group of young adults and with the different things that they do for the community there. I'll put in the description below the NoLimitsFoundation.org website, and I'll play this little quick, less than 1 minute video here where Dale talks about the group. Listen to this, please.
Welcome. You found us. The No Limits Foundation has been around 6 years, but today is your first day because you clicked this button. We are a not-for-profit organization that offers social engagement services for adults with disabilities. We're looking for people with autism, Asperger's, high-functioning people with developmental delays between the ages of 18 through 30. It is a total social engagement time that is fun and an opportunity for your son or daughter to develop relationships and make new friendships. There's absolutely no cost, and hopefully every question that you have about our program will be answered by clicking one of these buttons. I hope to see you soon.
Dale Cantrell with the Cantrell Law Firm, like I said, he is heavily sponsors this organization here, and they need your help. So if God lays it upon your heart, you'd like to donate, you can either click the donate button there, and you can donate directly online, and also a video on how you can financially support the organization. Or if you want to try to help support them, you can do it by mail as well. P.O. Box 299, Clinton, Tennessee 37717. That's the No Limits Foundation, and your donation is tax deductible. So thank you, and thank you for listening. I'm Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live.